Welcome everyone. Happy Monday. It's a beautiful day. We're doing another stream. Today we're going to do basic estate planning. So last week, some of the other weeks, we did some of the advanced stuff, advanced estate planning. We did dynasty trust. We did community property. We did the AC trust, the advanced married estate planning trust. Today is going to be about the basics. So hopefully everything sounds okay. I'm going to plug in my headphones real quick, check the stream before we get started. Make sure the audio is okay. Last week I recorded, and then after I realized there was an echo the whole time. So sounds okay here today. So let's get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So basic estate planning is today's topic. Some of the latest changes. So what's going on is we're letting people back into our office now. So in-office appointments are now available. So it's nice to see people again in person. Zoom's great too. It's great. Makes it easier and more convenient. You don't have to drive down to the office. And I especially like the Zoom meetings for reviewing documents together. But we are seeing clients back into our office. It's nice to welcome people back in. So if you'd like an appointment in our Arizona offices, our Mesa, Chandler, or Scottsdale, and I will be taking appointments this summer in San Diego, in our Encinitas, our northern San Diego County office in Encinitas, California. So California people, if you've been waiting to get on the schedule, if you've been waiting for in-person, we're starting to do that now. Give us a call if you want to schedule your in-person meeting. All right, let's get started. So some of the basics, let's go through taxes first. So we got income tax. So this is good. You have a job, income from the job. Before it makes it to you, Uncle Sam gets his share, and that's income tax. It's up to you, it's up to the individual to file an income tax return to report that income. Now, if you receive a gift from a person, the person giving the gift may have to file a gift tax return, and they may have to pay gift taxes. Now, after someone has passed away, money coming from their estate may trigger an estate tax, whether that's from a trust or from the individual's name via a probate. Estate taxes apply, or they may apply when money is coming from the estate. Let's take a look at annual exclusion. So annual exclusion, what this means this annual exclusion is the amount that can be gifted every year to an individual without filing a gift tax return or without paying any gift taxes. Currently, in 2021, the annual exclusion is $15,000. So that means Mr. Estate wants to make a gift here of $10,000, or Mr. Estate Senior wants to make the gift of $10,000. No gift tax return is needed. Now let's talk about exemption. So the exemption, the estate tax exemption, works together with gift taxes. This exemption can be used during life with gifts, or it's used upon death. And what it means is that the first $10 million is not subject to the estate tax. Now, if you want to get technical, we know it's adjusted for inflation. It's technically $11.7 million in 2021, but just to work with round numbers, we're going to go with $10 million in this example. So if Mr. Estate Senior wants to make a gift of $1,015,000, $15,000 of that would be annual exclusion, but the other $1 million would need to be reported on a gift tax return. And then that would subtract from his exemption $1 million. So Estate Senior has $9 million left of his exemption because he's used $1 million of it during his life with gifts. Now, after he passes away, he has $12 million in his trust with $9 million of exemption left. So his estate would need to file an estate tax return because it's over this exemption amount. And the amount over exemption is subject to the estate tax. So $9 million passes free of estate tax, but that extra $3 million over, let's see how that works. So this is the estate tax bracket for 2021, and you can see it gets up to 40% after $1 million. It hits it pretty quick. You see, after just 100,000, it's at 30%, and then all the way up to 40%. So this scenario with 3 million subject to the estate tax, the first million, the taxes would be $345,800, and then 40% of the next $2 million, which is $800,000. So you add that up, it's 1.1 million is what the estate taxes would be if there was 3 million subject to the estate tax. So the estate tax, it doesn't affect very many people currently at the exemption amount of $10 million, but if it does affect you, it's a big tax. And there is talk about reducing this exemption amount all the way down to $1 million or maybe even $3.5 million. So if that exemption amount was reduced, this estate tax would affect more people. Okay, so what is an estate? Is it a large house? Sometimes people use the term that way. An estate, for estate planning purposes, is everything that a person owns. So their bank accounts, retirement accounts, life insurance, everything a person owns, whether alive or dead, is part of their estate. Last will and testament. What is a last will and testament? It's a legal document. The person that makes it is called a testator, or testatrix is the female version. The will names a beneficiary who gets the stuff. Guardian, if there's minor children, you can appoint guardians of your minor children in the will. And the personal representative, you can designate who you'd want to be in charge to represent your estate. A will doesn't do anything until the person passes away. It's only effective upon their death. And to activate the last will and testament, a probate is needed. So before the personal representative and guardian are appointed, that's going to go through court. But the last will and testament is a document showing who has the authority to serve and who the beneficiaries are. So what is probate? So probate's the legal process to transfer title out of the name of the deceased. So this example here, we have a couple that have a house in both of their names. She has a bank account just in her name, and she has a life insurance policy. She passes away. Now, Mr. Estate is named as the beneficiary of the life insurance, so he's able to collect that. He doesn't need court involvement or probate. And with the house, he's also able to handle the house. As a joint owner, he's the remaining owner, so he has authority over the house. But this bank account is still in the name of his deceased wife. How does he collect that? So there is a will. It names him as the personal representative, as the one in charge, and it names him as the beneficiary of the estate. But he'll need to activate this will by filing a probate. So the probate court will appoint him after he files the appropriate documents, pays the right filing fees and all of that. They'll appoint him. And then there's several steps in the probate. You got to notify creditors, publish in the newspaper, there's waiting periods. And then after you go through all of those steps, the probate is able to be closed and the assets transferred out of the name of the deceased to where they belong. So probate is the legal process to transfer title out of the name of the deceased. We generally want to avoid probate because it's time consuming and expensive. A trust is a legal document. We're going to see here in a second, it's a good tool to avoid probate, but it's a legal document made by a person called the trustor. That's what we call it. Sometimes you'll hear this referred to as the settlor or the trust maker, but we call it the trustor. The trustee, we use this green bookkeeper hat to show who's in charge of managing the assets inside of the trust. And this hand to represent the beneficiary, who gets the stuff. Now, it's common that the person making the trust is also going to be managing it for the benefit of themselves. So the trust is going to name the successor trustees, so who's going to manage things in the event that you're unable to, and where are things going to go, who gets the stuff, who are the beneficiaries of the trust, and when and how do they receive it, under what conditions. So this example is showing an age trust. That's the most common type of restriction, that assets be held until a beneficiary reaches a certain age. And there's also other types of trusts, like a dynasty trust, or special needs trust, or pet trust, are some of the different examples there. All right, let's look and see how a trust avoids probate. So we have our friend here, Mr. Estate. He's created a trust, and then he's passed away. There's no longer a trustor, the person that created the trust, so the trust is now irrevocable at this point. A new trustee will be appointed, and the beneficiaries of the trust will be determined. All right, so the trustee, the successor trustee, he'll have the authority immediately over the assets inside of the trust. He doesn't have to go through court to get appointed. So one of the main benefits of a trust is that the authority transfers immediately after the death or the disability. This trustee will just need to prove to the banks and the other places that he is the trustee, and the trust will also need to get its own tax ID number at this time. So there is a little bit of work that needs to be done, but nothing that has to go through the court, and it's not nearly as time-consuming to administer a trust. The beneficiaries of the trust will be determined, and then the conditions. The trustee can decide to sell the house, or how the trustee can decide what the best use is of the assets in the trust, and then either hold them for the beneficiaries until they reach the designated age, or if they're over that age, he can transfer the money to them. So this avoiding probate is one of the main benefits why people do estate planning. There's not many people that have an estate tax problem, meaning where their estate is under 11 million, so it's not going to be subject to the estate tax. But this probate, if your family has to go through probate, that can result in not just fees, not just money, but unnecessary time. I think is more to think about than the money that's going to be spent. It's the time that your loved ones are going to have to go through and all the hassles they're going to have to deal with. So a big part of estate planning is avoiding probate. Now, after you have a setup to make sure you're going to avoid probate, then we can look to see if you have estate tax issues or any other needs. Digital assets. This is one of my favorite topics. This is how estate planning has become updated in the last few years. Now, this law was passed in Arizona in 2016, in California in 2017, and I believe at least 49 states have now passed this Digital Asset Act. I don't know if Pennsylvania's passed it or if there's any other holdout states. But it defined digital assets as an electronic record, which you have electronic record in which an individual has a right or an interest. So that's what a digital asset is. It's a record, electronic record in which you have a right or an interest. So once the law started defining digital assets, saying that you have a right to these electronic interests and that you can designate what happens to these interests that you hold electronically, I took that very seriously, and we created a digital asset trust to manage these interests. So in the digital asset trust, you name someone, you name a trustee, and you give them instructions over accounts that you store online, things like email or the photos that back up to your iCloud account or Google Drive or Amazon Photo, or things you put on YouTube. So we can give instructions on how you want to manage those things through a digital asset trust. All right, so here's our 3-step digital asset planning process. The first step, in modern estate planning, now that information is stored electronically and not just on paper, we want to give access to this information to the right people. Now, here's the information that they need to get. So we include language in our will, trust, and powers of attorney. We let them get an inventory of your digital assets limited to this information. Tell them what type of account it is. Is it a savings account? Is it a retirement account? What is it? The value of the account, how much is it worth? That's important in determining if we need to go through probate, as is the owner of the account. Is it owned by the individual? Is it owned by a trust? Is it owned by an LLC? And is there a beneficiary named? So the basic information about your accounts. We want your trustees in your plan to be able to get this information, and we also want the powers of attorney that you name to be able to have access to this information. All right, the digital asset trust is the second part of our digital planning process. So in there, I recommend that you, in your email, that you give your trustee the ability to request a list of emails received. Not the actual content of the messages, but just give them a list of the messages that were received. That way, if you pass away suddenly or suddenly became ill, your successor trustee can figure out what's going on in your life. But they can't read the messages from your old girlfriends or boyfriends or any of your personal information. They can just get some general information about your accounts. Now, going back in time, remember mail, remember paper envelopes and all of that. Now, back when bank statements and all the important information came that way, it was very helpful after someone passed away or suddenly became ill. It was helpful to start getting their mail to see what's going on. So we can update estate planning by giving limited access to email through the digital asset trust. Now, the third part that finalizes our modern estate planning process is we provide a place for you to store everything electronically. We'll give you your documents in a nice binder, but we also give you the digital vault, the ability to, you can decide who can access the information that you put in the vault and when they can access and what exactly they can access. All right, so that's it for today's presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Basic estate planning. Let me know if you have any other questions or topics that you'd like to hear about. You can leave them in the comments. We'll check there. Any other topics you'd like to hear about or any further anything you'd like me to go over more in this video, let me know. I'll point out, here's our website. Here's danalegalhelp.com. You can go there. That has our phone number, email if you want to call us, if you're ready to schedule your appointment. Here's a link to that digital vault I was talking about. This is what our clients get access to as part of their plans. So they can decide who can access their information and what exactly they can access to. And there's a lot of info on our website too. So if you have questions, if you're looking for an attorney, here's questions that you should ask them and some other general information. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week.